Number one, you got to start up right now. Order the book, spend a day and a half reading it. It will save you a lot of pain and suffering. In addition to being a how-to guide, how do you evaluate, how do you do it? Since it's written like a novel, you actually get a feeling for what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. Not that glossy, like Steve Jobs biographies, not like the glossy Facebook with all the drama, like really what does an entrepreneur feel like?
How can you help us, though, continue to help you? First, please subscribe to the channel. Like us. If you listen to the audio version, leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. If you see our posts, please share those posts, share the content, and link back to our law firm website, which helps us to continue our SEO marketing and grow our firm and help small business owners. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. As always, if you're listening on your favorite directory, leave us a 5-star review, and we continue to want to beef up the video channel. So if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe, like the channel, and keep connecting with us so we can keep meeting, cool guys like Andrew, because we're going to talk to Andrew about his background and things that he's done, and he's doing a lot of VC work now and wrote a book, which I think is great. We're trying to, push the envelope on success in the entrepreneurial world, because I think it can be improved, and we'll talk about that. Just so you guys know, I now have posted up a new merch store. So we have, if you can see this, if you're willing to take a mug with my face on it, we got a little accidental entrepreneur mug. Of course, that's the 20 ounce. You don't need a 20 ounce version. And let me see, we got the where is it? The podcast. Here we go. Share. Everybody probably can see that. And this is the podcast page on my Mitch Beinecker website. If you scroll down, you get to past the sponsors in the show. You click on the merch store, and it will open up. And then we have stickers here. We have a sweatshirt, mugs, different sizes, T-shirts, and hats. So if you're looking at, we don't make a lot of money on it, but it certainly supports the show, and that would be great. So, and then maybe we'll post more stuff over time. All right, so Andrew, let's get into the show and start talking about you and your background. Introduce yourself and take it from there.
Before we get into that, just because I can't help myself, if I want the accidental entrepreneur mug, but I want to put my face on it instead of yours, can I do that?
Not with my logo, but you can go to Fourth Wall and you can open up your own merch store and put your book in there and all kinds of stuff. But yeah,
You can talk about that one for offline. I think that might be like,
right.
a cooler sideline.
Yeah.
Listen, thanks for having me on the show. I'm going to let you drive here, but I'll give people like the 30-second background on me.
Yeah.
So I started my career in consulting because, heck, I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
Quickly went into my first startup, spent a bunch of years there. My first startup had to do with summer camps of all things.
Oh yeah.
I got bought out of
data
it.
for clients. Big business.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
40%
It is a shockingly big little business.
Yes.
Then I spent a couple years in a family office, which for those of you who don't know what that is, you're basically helping rich old people spend their money, or the families of rich
So it
old
was a
people spend their money.
multi-family office where you managed things for just
One
one
family office.
family?
In fact, not even a family. It was an older European guy who didn't have any kids. So, I mean, family
Got it.
offices come in all different shapes and
So the
sizes.
family was him.
Family was him, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Uh,
And you manage
and
money, investments, everything like that?
Yeah, I managed the investments, everything that was outside of like, the yacht that he had and the houses that he had, the
Right.
stuff that he put in like
Oh, you
hedge
didn't even
funds.
like deal with the staff of the yacht, making sure everything was
No,
okay
no,
every
thank
time?
God, no. And some family offices have like people who
Yeah.
do manage their charitable giving, but since he didn't give any of that, I didn't have to do any of that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's just
How
simple
did
that
you?
way, right?
It's a little off the beaten path question, but how did you end up working for this guy?
Um, Accidentally.
Just
No,
kind of
I'll give you the
coincidence.
short version and then we'll get back. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not like wedded to any one particular agenda here. So when I'd wrapped up my first startup, one of the things that I had done wrong in retrospect is I was so heads down on making that startup successful. I really hadn't allocated a lot of my time along the way to keeping my personal brand up, building it, and keeping it in the public eye, so
Okay.
that when I was, finally had negotiated my exit and
And
my
that was the
transition.
camp?
Yeah, it's called Bunk One was the name of the company.
Okay.
I kind of woke up one day. I'm like, well, what am I doing next, right? Where my network, and I had to warm the network up. And by total chance, one of the guys that I'd spoken to about pitching a prior startup to, when he was in VC, he had left VC and he had worked for this family office, and he was looking to move on to something else. And he's like, I got a role that I'm rolling out of like the same month you're rolling out of Bunk One. Would you be
Got it.
interested
So
in doing
he
this?
brought you in.
Yeah, and in fact, it was kind of cool because his guy had a bunch of ideas that he wanted to develop.
Hmm.
So he wanted somebody with a startup background because he figured I need people who can do my big boring hedge funds and private equity funds, and I want someone who can also incubate these new ventures. But I only really want one person, and if I bring a hedge fund or
No
a
one
private
knows the
equity guy
startup
in,
anymore.
they won't get the innovation.
Yeah, no way.
But if I get someone who's done the innovation side, who's got a good business school background, I can show them what I want them to do on the other side.
Yeah. Okay.
So it worked out very well. It was an interesting experience, let's just say.
How long were you in it
And
for?
then after that, like when I was done with that, and I
How
was
long was
done with
that?
that in a couple of years,
A couple
three
years. Okay.
years,
3 years.
I got recruited to do my second startup. Have you ever heard the expression experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted?
Yeah, usually.
That was a hell of an experience. Rolled out of that one, and then, long story made short, I ended up taking over the New York office of Dream Adventures, which was at the time the one of the top five accelerators in the world, third oldest in the world. I did that for 7 years.
Okay.
Span up an EdTech vertical for them. I span up what we called urban tech, which was construction tech and property tech. And since 2021, I've been doing about six or seven different things, including working with a VC fund in the space, including my own angel, now SPVs, where I invest
Hmm.
in startups directly.
Sure.
I teach entrepreneurship because why not? I have tons of free time. No, I don't, not even remotely. And then, of course, finally writing this book that I'd wanted to write for 10 years.
To help people. Okay. So, a couple of gaps and questions. What was the business that you did after you left the family office?
Oh, sure, sure. So I'll give you a little context, right? So one of
Hmm.
the things that Bunk One did is we had online photo galleries. So if you sent a
Okay.
kid to camp and then you didn't see anything for like 8 weeks, like
Right.
when our parents sent us to camp, they didn't care. Like we'll see you. We're going to Europe for 8 weeks, but in fast forward to like when we were sending our kids there, now we actually want to see them.
Yeah, they want to
So
look at pictures every day.
bingo. So back in
Yeah.
2000, that was tough,
Right.
right? You had a couple of like sites like Shutterfly, if you remember them, who could do password protected photo galleries, but
Right.
to be able to do that with individual accounts for parents so that if like it was compromised, you didn't have to change everything. That was really hard. And also to do it in
Separate
a,
them out into different
yeah,
accounts.
so different accounts, and to do that in an environment where a lot of camps are in the middle of nowhere and they didn't have good internet. So
Yeah.
to handle all those things was tough. So we were pretty sophisticated about that kind of stuff. And I was recruited by a guy who wanted to do a startup. This one was direct to consumer, but for
Okay.
parents who wanted to organize digital memories. So photos, but also video, also
Okay.
notes, also things like, you know, when you write the marks on the door jamb, how tall your kid is at each
Yeah.
birthday, like stuff like that, or when they lost their first
Right.
tooth and all that.
Right.
And it was a natural fit because I'd done the startup before. I understood kind of how parents interact with their memories. So it made a lot of sense. And he had tried to do it for a year, the guy whose idea it was, and he was originally from the restaurant industry. And then he finally realized, like, that's not the kind of startup I know how to build.
Yeah,
And
he's
brought
not.
me
It
in.
wasn't his background.
So that company was called Layer Cake. I should have led with that.
Okay.
And that one, unfortunately, didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, I use a company now called iMemories, and it's a
Mhm.
common thing that, but back then, yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah, I
Can't
mean, you got to
use.
put yourself back. That was 2012.
Right, the infrastructure wasn't even the
Yeah,
same as it is now. All right, so then, so what did you do at the incubator? Were you working directly with companies? Were you
absolutely.
running? Yeah,
Yeah. So let me just define a couple of terms. Accelerator, incubator, people use those
I meant
mostly
Excel. Well,
interchangeable.
did you say it was an accelerator or an
Yeah,
incubator?
I did, but like those words are mostly interchangeable. Like some
Okay.
people will use them differently, but it's so non-standard that you just got to ask.
I just thought incubator was like earlier stage, right?
Yeah,
Early
sometimes.
accelerators are more, a little bit more
Yeah.
into.
I mean, my advice to startups is don't assume A or B. Like if they call themselves anything that's remotely like an accelerator or an incubator, like you got to check them up and ask because it could
Yeah,
be
and
anything.
if it's
Totally
one
not
program, it
standard.
doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll tell you what I did. I did everything from finding the startups to vetting them, selecting them, bringing them in, 3 month program initially, working with them every week, prepping them, getting them ready to pitch their company on demo day, which was a thing back then, where they can go out and raise at that point a seed round. So
Okay.
one of the big changes in my life that I wasn't prepared for was going from like an angel investor
Yeah.
to that kind of fund investor. Because and I don't know, Mitch, I don't know if you do any angel investing, but like if you're an angel investor and you get like two or three really interesting companies a month,
Right.
that's awesome. Like two or three. I'm not going to make
That's
two
a
or three
lot.
investments a month. I'm going to pick one every 2 or 3 months.
Right. That's a lot.
So then you're like, oh my God, I'm drowning in quality deal flow.
Right.
Now flip it. I start running Dream It, and they're like, great, you need 13 to 15 startups for your program. Applications
I was
open
gonna
a
ask
little
about
over
that.
2 months before,
Okay.
and to get 12 or 13 or 15 quality companies,
Yeah. How many
we didn't
ads?
do 15 ever, but like 12 or 13, you need to look at a couple of hundred, and
Yeah, that's what I was
probably you'll
thinking.
get close to 1,000.
Yeah, okay. So because there's a lot of people out there looking to get into programs, but you got to
Absolutely.
kiss a lot of frogs before you get to
Oh
the
my God.
really good
Oh my
ones. Yeah,
God. I mean,
I'm
you got
not
warts
surprised.
all over your face by the time
Yeah,
you're
I'm not
done.
surprised.
But just you can do the math a little bit, right? So let's say I'm out there and we put the applications out, and I'm out there like pounding the pavement to get the companies in. I thought that was going to be hard. It was hard. But the harder part was now I close, we did whatever. I start looking through the startups. I got 1,000 startups.
Yeah,
And I timed it, right? Sometimes you look at it and within 30 seconds, like, oh my God, I just threw up in my mouth. We're out, right?
those are
Other
the easy
times
ones, right?
it looks good.
Yeah,
So you're spending like a meaningful amount of time. So I was averaging about 5 minutes per application between the ones I dug into, decided I wanted to meet with later. This is just the first screening.
right.
So 5 minutes on average
That's
times a
five
thousand
minutes.
applications.
Yeah,
I mean, you can do it. Like my eyes started to glaze over.
yeah.
I
It's
was
hard.
not a
Are you
nice
the only
human
guy
being.
reviewing these, or you have a team of people looking at
So
them?
it's funny you should mention this. I don't usually go into this, but in my own self-defense, what I ended up doing is I got a bunch of interns. I had like 10 or 12 interns come in, and I had the thesis, which turned out to be true, is that if I gave relatively smart but otherwise, not trained, venture people a rubric and says, here's what a good team looks like. Here's what a good traction is for us. Here's like what an interesting problem is. If I gave them that and I had them all rate the startups on those dimensions, that they would be pretty good at weeding out the absolute crap.
These are
I
the
wouldn't really,
interns you're saying. You give the
yeah, these
rubric for those
interns.
people listening. If you had kids go to college, the rubric is basically the guide to
Yeah, a
how
scoring
you
guide.
want this to happen, right?
Scoring guide.
So where were these interns coming from? Like what
Oh,
level?
they were in some cases undergrads, there were some cases business schools, in some cases they
Okay,
were
so they're probably
entrepreneurs who wanted to
students or
understand the venture
sort of like
side better. It was a mix of people.
right.
And they committed to doing at least 200 applications each because I wanted every application to have three pairs of eyes on it. So one person
Yeah,
was just kind of an outlier.
right.
So you can do that math, right? I had 10 people, but I wanted them to do 200 each. That gave me, 2,000 views, right? I'm doing the math right.
Right.
But I also wanted three on each. So 2,000 divided by three, that
Right.
got me into like 700, 800 range. And some people did more.
So
Uh,
it's a lot of work for them to go
yeah,
through.
but I had them do a first review because if they looked at it and they're like, this one sucks,
You don't
they were
necessarily
right.
get to
There were
you.
no false negatives there.
Right.
Now, the ones I thought were good, like that, those were all over the board because I trained them up for like 20 minutes.
Right.
But at least I could knock out the bottom 25%
Yeah, it makes
off the
sense.
bat. So my
Yeah.
second time around, like I started building those processes in, which, is not, in theory, not all that different from the way a VC fund works, where they have like, the first, second, third year associates and senior associates doing the first review, and then you meet
Right.
on that Monday morning with your partners, like, here are the company I looked at. I think this one's good because, okay, let's dig in. Only we had to do all that in a couple of weeks
Right.
because I still needed to leave time to schedule interviews
Right. And then you got
with
to
the ones I like.
launch. So you have a date for the start of the incubator accelerator, right? So you're
Hmm.
trying to fill it up for that date. Can I
Yeah,
ask you this question statistically?
yeah.
Like if you get 1,000 applications in, how many fall off the table the first that you never even see?
You mean like, oh, so that the way I had it
50%,
by
80%?
the second time I did this,
Okay.
which is when I was doing this. So I did it like pre-seed twice,
Okay.
and then we went a little later stage and went vertically focused. So the numbers are a little different.
Right.
But the second time I did this, when I had those pre-screeners in place,
And you were a
The
little
bottom 25% fell out.
just 25, just lops right off.
Yeah, I had a certain, like, if you got like under X stars,
Yeah.
I was dropping it was almost exactly 25%,
Yeah. Okay.
which is a lot of time in
Yeah.
that case. So then I'd look through the rest, and we would go from like the 1,000 went down to like 750 plus or minus, and we would pick about 50 to 60 to actually interview.
That really would make it to the interview. So it was only like 5% that really make it to the interview.
Whatever 750 divided by 5 is, right? So 5 out of
I would start.
75, that's 1 out of 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 out of 25. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Or one out of, you got it, whatever, 50 out of 1,000.
Okay. So for people listening, I think this is some valuable information. What are the kind of things that you
But wait, those are the
estimate?
ones that got interviews.
No, I know that, but what
And then,
kind of things would knock these people off of the list? Like what were they missing? Like why were the first 25% so bad?
oh,
Where they're on a
oh my
napkin.
God, like the
Yeah,
ones, those,
ridiculous.
the bad startups, like the really bad startups,
Yeah,
are usually bad for their own spectacular ways, right? There's a whole chunk of them where it's like, there's not even a cocktail napkin here, right? And we
right.
didn't do that. Like we had people that had the product mostly done. So it's like, I'm thinking about building X, out. But then there were like the absolute whack jobs, like, the guys that believed in perpetual motion machines. Like, I'm going to create electricity to run an electric car by attaching a flywheel to the rear axle.
Really,
Right. And like he swore to me that worked. I'm like, listen,
right.
we're done here. Thank you. Best of luck.
This is
Right.
not for us. Yeah,
Yeah. I wish. So I have this phrase, which I usually mean, but in his case, it meant like F you, dude. When I pass on a startup, I'll usually say something like, listen, Mitch, this is not a fit for us.
right.
You may be too early, or it's not our sector, or I'm just not buying, your go-to-market or what have you. But nothing would make me happier than if you proved me wrong. And I mean it. Like a lot of times, like, I'm placing bets, and I'm saying this is not a good bet for me. The
Right.
bet might still pay off, right? Are you a blackjack player?
I play poker, like
Oh, okay.
not
So
too
I
much.
don't have the great analogies for poker, but in blackjack, there's a saying: always split aces and eights,
Right.
right? Because
Yeah.
that's the way to play. Occasionally, the dealer will still beat you, but it's
Yeah.
still the way to bet.
Right.
So unlike in Vegas, where I don't want the dealer to beat me, like anyone I say no to, I'm totally thrilled if they end up creating a great startup, despite my impression.
But Andrew,
Yeah,
you've probably looked at thousands
yeah.
of businesses, right? Have you ever come across a business where you're just like, this idea is so bad that I am not doing this guy any service to prop him up and think maybe there's someone else out there and this idea
Oh,
could
yeah, no,
work?
I'm totally blunt about it, right?
Right.
And
Like
so
this is terrible and should not be a business.
but I'm an outlier. I'll tell you why. So most of the time, if you're an entrepreneur and you tell people your idea, and they're usually friends and associates of yours,
Right.
they're going to want to be supportive of you.
Right.
And they're going to tell you, oh, that's a great idea. And they may actually mean it. They'll talk about all the
Right.
things you can do. To actually get blunt and actionable feedback, you have to give them permission to be, in their mind, a little bit mean. It's like, it's okay, call my baby ugly.
Right. Exactly. Tell me I'm a
Yeah.
stupid idiot.
So the
Right.
way I do that, and that's in the book, and that's what I used to tell everyone, is you go up to the people you're talking to and you say, listen, Mitchell, I'm thinking about doing this company. I'm not sure I'm going to do it, but if I do it, this could be 2, 3 years of my life, a good chunk of which I'm going to be just cashing out money in my bank account. So I really want to talk to as many people as possible to stress test this thing and see if it's good, right? So give me your blunt, brutal feedback. You
Right.
will not hurt my feelings, I promise you. And if you break the idea and I can't fix it, you've saved me 3 years of my life, right? So when you phrase it that way,
Yeah.
then they're willing to take their gloves off. Now,
Right.
uh, not me, I'm an asshole. I'll do it, I'll just be brutal,
Well,
but I'll
well,
smile.
they're not your brother-in-law, so
Yeah, no, but I'll smile. I'll say like, "Hey, listen, Mitch, I'm going to give it to you blunt because I'm kind of a dick," and then they laugh because they think I'm joking, and then I tell them the truth, but I
this is a
smile
really
when I
shitty
say it.
idea. Right.
And sometimes they're like, "That's interesting. I got to go look at it again." That's rare, but that's good. That's a sign of a good entrepreneur. Right? Good entrepreneurs have what I like to call well-reasoned but loosely held opinions.
Right.
So if you come back and say, "Hey, I think that sucks. Don't do it," like, okay, you haven't really given any logic to go
Right.
by. But if you
They
come
just
back to them and
reduce
say,
it down.
here's why I think you got a problem here. Like, I
Yeah.
think your customer acquisition costs are going to be too big. And they're like, that's interesting. I'm going to go test that. or like that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that before. That's data I didn't have. Like that's a really good trait in an entrepreneur. But unfortunately, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Usually, what will happen at that point is the second rarest, but not usually, is they'll respectfully disagree, but they can't articulate why they don't
Well,
like
because
that.
they're emotionally attached to this
Yeah,
thing that they were willing to come to your organization,
exactly.
maybe not as prepared as they should have been, but they thought they were,
Well,
thinking
then you
your
get
idea is
the
wonderful.
most likely scenario is then they argue with you.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah,
argue. I'm like,
because they feel defensive and they're trying to
yeah.
defend their position, right?
And sometimes they'll argue about meaningful stuff about, no, we can acquire customers. I'm like, well, go test it, right? And I'll give
Yeah,
them like,
knock yourself
for
out.
them, like, here's a couple of things you can do to test it. Right? I'm a big fan of, and I talk about this repeatedly in the book, like before you do something, find a way to test it for free for a couple
Yeah,
of bucks.
right.
I talk about the index card, app, so you don't have to code a site. You put them on index cards, get feedback that way. I talk about doing a quick ad buy on Facebook or Google Ads just to see what your cost of acquisition is going to be. I
Right.
mean, if you figure out that like it's totally more than like 10 times more than you thought it was going to be, your model may be broken before you even build it. It's
Yeah,
like
because
I'm
you
a
may not
big
be able to
fan.
price this thing at a level that you can acquire
Well,
customers.
that's
Maybe
it. Like
that's one thing.
if you have to price your book at $300 to cover the cost of customer
Right.
acquisition, you're gonna have a problem, right?
Yeah. Right.
So you can find out a lot of these things before you build, before you go out there, before you quit your day job.
Right.
So I'll talk to them about that. But the ones that are just like, no, you're wrong, or like, you're a moron for not investing in my space, or like, you should invest this early, even though you say you never do that. Like at that point, I'm like, listen, this isn't going to work for us. Please,
Right.
if they're early, I'll say, hey, please keep me posted. By the way, that's sometimes called the VC soft no. Like, please keep me
Of
posted as
course.
you get more progress.
Right.
The thing that I'll do differently, and this is the advice that I've given in the past, is if you get what you think might be a VC soft no, but you're not sure, it could really mean come back when you have more traction. You'd say, okay, Andrew, I really appreciate that. Just so I know, what numbers are you looking for? Like the number
Right.
of customers, revenue,
Yeah.
where should I get to
Well, if you make
before I
that come
bother you
back, then
again?
it's going to be a shot in the dark.
Yeah, it's like I'm not. I can come back when I have 100,000. I can come back, but that's
Right.
will just bother you if you're looking for a million. So if the VC can kind of articulate to you what they're looking for, it might not be a soft no. But if they kind of hem and haw, that's their way of saying like, yeah, A, I don't think you'll ever get there, and B, like I think the idea sucks across the board. So good bugging me. But if they come back and say, listen, at $500,000, I'd love to take another look at it, then that might be genuine.
Yeah.
But we digress, right? So the
Yeah.
question
No,
was,
it's good conversation.
yeah, the question is like, what happens for that lower 25%? And it's usually a grab bag of way, like they haven't even put any work in, absolutely delusional, or just clueless. So anyway, those drop out.
Okay.
Then we talked to a bunch of other founders. When you get digging into the problem, you may find, especially when you're a generalist and you don't know the industries as well, you may determine that like the problem isn't super painful, prevalent, and frequent, right? If it doesn't hit all those three dimensions of pain, it's kind of hard, right? Because people
It's going to be
only
hard.
want
Right.
pain points. So we say, and this is not my quote, like we invest in painkillers, not vitamins, which is kind of weird because vitamins are a huge industry. So it's not the best analogy, but
Right.
it gives you the idea that we're looking for stuff that's really painful.
Right.
And then we might dig, especially when you're new to the industry and you haven't ever looked at, agricultural technologies,
Right. Because
right?
it's not your
I
industry.
haven't done that. And then, you get really excited about something and then you do your competitive research and you realize there's 20 startups that are further ahead of you on it doing exactly the same thing. So that might knock those people out. Let's just call them the plausible startups, right?
Right.
So you're going in there and stuff like that might come in. You might find out the founder's not willing to quit her day job. Like that's a yellow flag for us, red
Yeah.
flag in our case. They got to be willing to do full time on it. You may turn out like, they overstated the traction or the completeness of the product and the application.
Yeah.
It's not really
That's
there
another
yet.
problem, right?
Those are like, okay, if it's within the realm of like, I may have read it wrong. I'm okay with that. It's like, hey, let's set a touch base for 6 months from now. Right. That's how you know for sure it's not a BS soft no. If I'm like, listen, I want to talk to you in 6 months,
Right.
and then I actually set a reminder for myself in case they don't, if I think it's that interesting.
Oh, okay.
Of course, because like
That's
a
a
lot of
good
these things are
sign. The
too
VC
early.
calls you back on
Yeah, if
its
it's
own.
too early, but I liked it, um, I don't want that deal to get away from me. I
Right.
put that in my CRM, my customer relationship management software, and
Follow up.
like it'll ping me to go back out to them.
Right.
You got to be. That's the other thing. Like from angels to VC, that transition was just the scale. Like it was
Right.
like 100 times more deal flow to make it work. And it's the worst case is accelerators. Regular VCs, it's a little better, but not that much better. And then the idea that I had to manage a pipeline. Like when you're an
Yeah.
angel investor, there's not a lot of comeback later. You're so early in the stack that, they're either,
Right.
there or you'll miss them if you pass, or
Right.
they'll be dead and it doesn't, not dead, but the company will be
The
dead.
business. Right.
So it doesn't really matter. But if you're investing in like where I come out now, which is usually the pre-series A, I'm looking
Yeah.
for
A little
pre-series
later
A
stage. I
companies.
got some. Right.
I get a lot of people that are at the seed stage but look really awesome.
Yeah.
So I got to get a sense of like where they are in the process, how much progress do I think they're going to do? Because I don't want them, if they really taken off and they're awesome, I don't want to miss that later because I just didn't follow up with them, or I relied on them to follow up with me.
Yeah. Because it was a little
So
too early,
angels
but
don't
you
do
thought
that.
it was a good concept and could be
Exactly.
as they
We had the
execute.
bucket was promising but early in
Right.
HubSpot.
Right. Because early stage, I mean, you're really relying on people to execute a lot of
Yeah.
times, and they just
Yeah.
don't do it. They can have the best idea in the world, right? And they
Yeah. Or, what happens very often is they've got some good early traction, but your early traction, especially if you're like in the business to business world,
right.
the B2B world, they're your own personal connections.
Yeah.
They're people that are friendly pitches. So the next stage is to actually go out there and see what you do when you're going in totally cold. And I
Right.
don't mean a
Get
cold pitch. I
really
mean
young.
cold like you don't have a relationship. So how do you build that
Right.
relationship? And that's a different skill set. And when you're investing in a Series A rather than a seed round, that's one of the things you're looking for.
Right.
Right.
With the
So
general public, build
exactly.
connections, buy this thing, service, product,
Hang on.
whatever it is.
Here, I'll tell you something that people like entrepreneurs think is really awesome, but it actually hurts them.
Okay.
So entrepreneurs will say, and we got to all this with zero marketing spend. So
Right.
they're thinking that's awesome, right? Aren't we
Right.
scrappy? I'm thinking, oh, those are your personal networks. Now
What
that
you
you're
didn't
done with
do
that,
any.
how are you going to get the next 20,000? Like you had
Right.
2,000 users, awesome. How do you get to 20,000?
Right.
Like, well, we're going to do this, that, and the other thing. We're going to do like Google AdWords, Facebook ads, whatever it may be. Great. What are your metrics on it? How's that? How much is that going to cost? Like, well, we haven't done it yet.
Right.
So I'm like, well, the entrepreneur that comes to me and says, I got to 2,000 and I used Google ads and, here's my cost per click and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm more comfortable with that because I know that if I give them money, I can 10x that. Here's 10 times the money you put in. I mean, you have
Right.
to make sure the AdWords scale,
No, of course.
but that's easy enough. You can check the
Yeah,
inventory.
but they've done the work up
But
front.
they're showing me that model works. Whereas the other guys that spent $0 to, get there, they've told me they don't know it. Well, they haven't proven that they know how to get to that next level.
Right.
So counterintuitively, it's better that you spent money to get there.
Yeah. No, I find a lot of entrepreneurs that I meet, they don't, they're trying to bootstrap these businesses and get them off the ground, and they got these great ideas, and they overlook the real cost of operating a business. They don't even account for themselves, right, to be able to take a salary and learn, and
Yeah,
maybe other personnel they need, because they're winging it, and not winging it, but they're squeezing everything in and doing it
yeah,
as cheap as they can and keeping. But they might need staff, and they might need people to run this business, and then as their costs scale up, they can't. The product. This doesn't mean you can triple the price of the product because
yeah,
you got to triple your costs. Doesn't
yeah. So there's
follow.
there's like three or four things in that comment that are worth unpacking, right? So
Yeah.
number one is at some point, like it's not sustainable for you not to pay yourself a salary
Right.
as a founder. So you need to bake that into your fundraise, and it has to be relatively realistic. And I mean, you're still not paying yourself what you might get a regular job, but enough that it's sustainable for you. Because
Right.
I as a VC need to know what that is. So when
Right.
you get to like the kind of use of funds, the ask part of your deck, uh, you know, we might ask about that, right? I want to make sure you're using it on the right stuff and you're
And
not
paying your
spending.
bills, right? I mean,
Yeah, you
that
got to get
matters.
there. Uh, the related issue is there's only so many hours in your day. That's part of the reason a lot of VCs are uncomfortable investing in solo founders. The other is actually having someone across the table that you have to say something out loud to and who
Right.
can call BS on you. Like that makes the company better. But just even without that, this is too much work to do for one person, generally
Yeah.
speaking.
Generally.
So I want to make sure that that's sustainable, right? I want to make sure that you've accounted for that. And then as you raise money, you should be purposeful about how you buy those hours back. So to give one example, usually at the earliest stage, you don't have a bookkeeper, you don't have a
Right.
CFO, right? You're just keeping track of it all in QuickBooks, and you're probably bollocksing it up a bit, but it's good enough. I mean, like you'll have to go fix it all when you raise your A round, but at least it's good enough to get you there.
Right.
At some point, it pays to say, this is a bunch of hours every week. I'm not very good at it. I don't
Yeah.
like doing it. And for a de minimis amount of money, I can get a fractional bookkeeper to come in and
Right.
do it.
Of
So I'm
course.
going to buy back some hours
Yeah.
that I can use on better things.
Right.
And, if you're a guy that's only done corporate and you're coming into the startup world, you're all the way on the other side of that equation. Like you have 20 people that supported you that do
Right.
bits and pieces of everything else. So in that case, I worry about, can you do all that stuff
Well,
yourself
that's the
without the
problem, right?
safety
It's the
net?
skill set, right?
Yeah, but the entrepreneurs, brother, and everything I'm talking about, like there are stories about this in the book that cover
Yeah.
it and illustrate it in more detail.
Sure.
But what I worry about on the other end is the entrepreneurs are trying to be scrappy, and I get it. My first startup, we made our own desks, not from
Okay.
IKEA, but from lumber.
Right.
Right? I had like splinters in my palms for months.
Yeah, wasn't there
So
one company, I forget, some tech company where they bought like doors from Home Depot and they put them on
I
those
didn't know
horses
that.
and they made desks out of them. Yeah.
I'll tell you, like sorry, this is too funny a story not to tell. Back in the dawn of internet time in the 2000s, there was a very cool tongue-in-cheek website called Fucked Company by Pud. No one knew who Pud was.
Okay.
And he'd be basically posting like startups that they thought were circling the drain. We got our servers off of like companies that were going underground. Like, oh, this company's in New York and they're going down. Let's go
Right.
see
They
what kind
got
of servers they
stuff.
have. They
Right.
got stuff. Let's go buy it.
Right.
Right. So that's cool. I like scrappy entrepreneurs. But there comes a point where they can be so scrappy that they're conserving cash when they actually should start spending it to free up
Right.
hours. And
Right.
it's different with each startup, but that's a really good entrepreneur is more likely to make that mistake than to spend too much early on support. Right? That's more of a newbie, first time founder coming out of corporate world, building up too much cost too
Right.
early.
Yeah. You can furnish your office professionally from a furniture guy who's cleaning out, big companies that are redoing their things and do it cost effectively. You don't have to literally be sitting on two by
Yeah. Oh
fours.
God, I don't remember it was many years before I had new furniture.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever bought new furniture.
Yeah.
I've always.
This podcast is brought to you by our affiliate sponsor, iEmployee. iEmployee is a virtual assistant service that hires almost anyone for any role in your company right out of the Philippines. Most roles range from $7 to $9 an hour for highly skilled and experienced VAs. And whether you need an executive assistant, social media manager, video editor, customer service, sales, you name it, they have it. We use iEmployee for our VA services, from editing and promoting the podcast to all the PR and promotion of our law firm. iEmployee acts as a virtual field supervisor on the back end with live video monitoring and reports on a daily basis with screenshots of your VA's workday, and along with complete HR and payroll duties. No more paying for overpriced and underqualified workers. There's a link in the show notes to get a 1-week free trial, and I encourage you to take advantage of it. Maybe you're getting your calendaring from one software and you're invoicing from another. Evenue is a platform that we use as one of our sponsors to run our entire business. And there's other features like auto payments and integrations with QuickBooks. Visit evenue.com, EVONUE.com to learn more. There's also a link in the show notes. And be sure to tell them that the Accidental Entrepreneur referred you.
We had an office with partners, and the reason we bought new furniture for the modules was so as we added attorneys, we could match the furniture. But the chairs, the conference room table,
Yeah.
everything was, we had $1,500 chairs and we paid $75 a piece for them. We had the conference room tables, probably $6,000 table. We paid a couple $100 for it.
I could use a $75 Aero
Yeah,
chair. Let me
yeah.
know if you got any
Not
more of
much
those.
anymore. Firm's been dismantled.
Okay, we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, were there any industries that you were more akin to than others, or still are?
Yeah, so I started off my career, and the first company was what we call B2B2C model.
Okay.
Meaning, like we would go and we would, go to camp conferences, talk to camp owners. By the way, camp owners are nice people, but not always the nicest looking people. It's kind of an interesting conference. So I've gone to other conferences, like in the media world, and like, oh my God, they're beautiful people here.
Right. Well, it's a different
Uh,
industry.
but anyway, like really nice people.
Yeah.
Uh, and I feel bad. That was kind of mean of me what I just said.
Yeah. Well.
I'm sorry. But anyway, so we'd go to the camp conferences, we'd sign up the camps, and
Yeah.
then that would give us, sometimes the camps would pay us, but often that would give us permission to go direct to the parents who wanted to use the various products, and the parents would pay to use it. So it's
Right.
a
But you were
B2B
still
to
the
C model.
service for the camp.
Yeah, so the camp had to select us, and then we had to market to the parents, which ironically is not an unusual model in the prop tech world, the real estate technology world, in multifamilies. Like when you sell
Right.
to a rental building, often like the parent company's like, great, now you got to go to the individual building managers, and if they want to use it, that's great. You can give them the standard agreement. Like instead of like a 30-page contract every time you want to do it, you give them that one-page addendum, they're signing up.
Got it.
And sometimes what it does, it just gives you a fishing license to go talk to the tenants, right? So some of the a couple of years ago, one of the big places was to replace a deposit. Like, oh, you got to give me first month and last month's rent. It's a lot of money for some people. They want to replace that with, pay X dollars each month. It was more of an insurance
Right.
product.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the way
A
they
lot of
went to market,
cobblestones do that now, where you can pay $200 and they back it up
exactly.
like a bond. Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea there was, and the way they went to market is they'd say, uh, okay, Mitch, we're going to go into your building to do that. Here's how you build this into your onboarding flow. Uh, but, it's up to the tenant if they want to do A or B.
Right.
Right. So that was a B2B to C model that I see a lot now in prop tech. So my
But was
first
the
company,
camp even paying anything at that point?
sometimes, sometimes,
Sometimes they're paying,
sometimes the camps are like, I'm paying,
like a sign-up fee or
this
something.
is back like 20 years ago. Some are like, I'm already charging my parents $8,000 to send their kid to camp. I'm not going to
Right.
charge them, make them pay another $50 till I do these other
Right.
things.
I'll build this in. Yeah.
But more often than not, they would pass some of the costs on. It's like, the photo gallery is free, but if you want to send these notes to your kids, you got to pay.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
wow,
makes
this is a long
sense.
time ago. Yeah, it made sense.
Yeah.
And they got commissions on some of these things, so like they were kind of into that. So I really like B2B models, and I was kind of a B2C guy. And then when I was starting to do the stuff at Dream in my first 2 years, total generalist, any industries, almost any industries. We didn't do pharmaceuticals because, like, pharmaceuticals, like, we're going to be in testing with the FDA for the next 7 years.
Right.
There's nothing we can do to
Yeah.
like
Right.
help
No
them advance the
control.
business.
Right.
Yeah. So a couple of stuff that technically we didn't do, but we looked at anything. It was pretty awesome,
Yeah,
right?
but
B2B,
did
B2C.
you find that you ended up in certain industries at the end of the day? Of course, you'd take applications from anybody, but
Yeah.
were there things like, look, we just don't know that. It's not something we can
No, we
recommend.
did almost everything.
Yeah,
And
you
the
just do
beauty
your own due
was, like, between our
diligence.
network, we knew
Yeah.
people that helped us diligence it.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing was, somewhere around the end of year two, we had a new CEO come in,
Okay.
and great guy, also lives in New York. Avi Savar, one of the few people I consider, a mentor at this point in my career still, even though he's more of a bourbon drinker than a Scotch drinker.
I'm a bourbon guy. I like Scotch, but I'm a bourbon guy.
Listen, as long as it's not rye, we can get along because
Oh,
rye is just
I
vile.
like rye.
Oh,
Rye used to be like the shit of whiskey.
it's like
There's some
iodine.
good
You
rye out there. Yeah,
can't.
but you're a Scotch drinker. I
Yeah.
understand. I wouldn't
Okay.
hold it against you, Andrew.
But again, we digress. We'll talk about that offline.
Yeah.
So, he's like, hey, I know we keep saying we're one of the top five accelerators in the world. I don't want to be top five. What's it take to be number one? Can we be number one in this?
Okay.
And we had like this. I remember we were at an offsite, and we kind of figuratively had this long look in the mirror, and we said, maybe if we do everything right and Techstars kind of fumbles the ball a few times, we could get to number two, but I don't think we can take down Y Combinator.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I don't want to be number two. So find me something that we can do where we're number one. So having like taken the whole model and putting it on its side there, we're like, well, our the startups we work with and the startups that want to be part of the program, they tell us that they want to do it because we're very good at finding them their first customers.
Okay.
BizDev, though they didn't call it that, which is good because we thought we were very good at it, but we had to hear it from the market to be sure that it wasn't, wishful thinking. Uh, but we get some of these later stage startups, meaning people have already raised their seed round and their next round will be an A. And when we tell them like, we're going to give them, 75 grand, whatever it is for 6, 7% of the company, they're like, can't do that. I'm beyond that stage. My board wouldn't let me do it, even if I wanted to. They're like, I'm sorry, can't help you. But it's an untapped market to be able to deal with companies at that stage, and it plays to one of our strengths. So we ended up going later stage, and as part of that decision, we said, well, if we're going to be doing biz dev, it's brutal to do biz dev for 12 different companies in 12 different industries. We should focus on a couple of industries.
Yeah,
And we were
no
already
doubt.
doing healthcare
Right.
separately. Uh, and at roughly the same amount of time, at the same point in time, Penn State offered us $1 million to do an EdTech program.
Nice.
So
On campus, like with their students.
no, partly. So that was the thing. So later stage companies. Well, actually,
Okay.
let me tell it in order. It's better this way. So Avi looks around the room and said, "Well, I'm not going to touch health tech because that's kind of working on its own." Andrew, you haven't started recruiting for the next group of startups for New York. Why don't you spin up EdTech? Now, mind you, I had spent 9 months working at Kaplan Test Prep before I did my first startup.
Kaplan, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my
I
only
understand.
EdTech experience, right?
Right.
But I'm an ex-consultant, so I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll figure it out, no problem. And I was basically giving me a blank sheet of paper to design this like later stage program. So like that's awesome, right? I candidly I was thinking about leaving already. I was getting a little bored, but like this was a new opportunity. So we create a whole new program, and the program is about 60 to 70% remote because listen, if you're 10 people in your company,
Right.
like you're not going to put everything on hold and move everyone to New York and sit in a room.
Right.
So it
Of
was
course.
much more one-on-one with
And
the
these are post
founder.
grads. Were these former grads of Penn State or not necessarily?
No, not necessarily.
No.
Like we
Right.
would
So
look
this
at
is
them and
now
go,
the online is very common, but okay.
yeah. See, this was early. We were really kind of pushing the envelope here. We were looking for companies that were in the ed tech space, and not all of them necessarily had to be stuff that Penn State would use. We could do K-12 startups as well,
Okay.
but obviously a decent number of them should be. So they were actually, like Penn State's been an early leader in online education. I think they're either number one or number two, depending on how you feel about ASU. And they had their minds in the right place on this one.
So what was the benefit to them for giving you $1 million to start these different programs?
So it was the ones that they could work with directly were great, but it also helped them understand the startup world and how to work with startups.
Got it.
And there's also kind of brand halo effect and all that kind of fun stuff. They did it for a few years, or they were willing to do it for a few years. Then obviously after a while, they're like, okay. And that's one of the dirty little secrets when you have corporate sponsors for an accelerator. They usually last about 3 years before they've learned what they wanted to learn and they realize like, okay, they don't need to spend that much money anymore.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
So I spanned it up and it was great. It was largely remote to begin with, and we had a couple of um, capstone or tentpole events. We had the kickoff, which we would take them all to Penn State, which is in the middle of nowhere. But hey,
Yep.
like the
Happy
creamery is
Valley.
uh,
Yeah.
pretty awesome ice cream. They say cow to the cone in one
Yeah.
day.
The creamery is very nice. We
Yeah.
were out there for a game. We were out there for the IU Penn State game where they won the game. My son's an IU grad.
Ah,
Um, and we were in the end zone where Omar
nice.
Cooper Jr. made that get. I've never been to a game at Beaver Stadium. It is the loudest place to
So
have ever been.
I went to a relatively small college. Like at Hopkins, I think there's fewer than 6 or 7 thousand seats in like the lacrosse
Yeah,
stadium.
right.
But my daughter goes to Michigan.
Oh
So the
yeah.
big house has
Oh yeah,
110,000 plus or
nuts.
minus seats.
Right.
It's got its own microclimate.
Yeah,
As a first game, like there's a certain quality to like
yeah.
that kind of size that
Big
you
time. Well,
can't.
that's why Penn, yeah, Ohio State, Michigan,
Yeah,
such a
yeah,
big
and
game.
I don't remember. I think either it's Penn State and then Michigan, or Michigan then Penn State for like the biggest stadium.
Yeah,
In
but
the
they're all like 110.
they're
They're
huge.
all north of 100. It's
Yeah.
just crazy. Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway,
so
so that was
anyway,
good. So where
back to the
was
program. So we
yeah,
were, we would do kickoff. We would do 2 weeks of customer sprints, which were face to face, sit down across from potential customers who said, "I want to look at these three startups." So qualified leads in enterprise sales term. And then at the end, we had 2 weeks of investor sprints, same thing, but with the VCs. That's like, I'm interested in those four. Bring them to my office. So we went from like, hey, let's just all get up on stage at the end to really much more of a
This is
enterprise
Dream It,
sales
right?
approach. Yeah, this is a dream it.
Right.
So this is all to answer the question, like what kind of startups am I in?
Yeah.
The fact that we built a program like that meant that the kind of startups that we were most valuable to were either themselves B2B or were kind of B2B2C or could use these other things as channel partnerships.
Got it.
So I went a whole 180 degrees away from being much more of a B2C guy by temperament and skills to loving B2B because it's a whole lot easier to figure out, like, I'm going to talk to a couple of customers and see if, like, maybe they got something.
Right.
And then once you know the industry, you have a pretty good instinct about, is this something that's cutting edge or is this something that's like 3 years behind the curve? Is this something they're going to want?
Right.
Which makes looking at the competitor slide so much easier,
Right.
right? And make you so much more insightful when you think about the problem slide or the competition slide. So I went from being a generalist who liked B2C and being afraid that I was going to be bored by going into particular industries to being a total convert.
Right. Well, I think B2B or B2B2C, it's almost like having a level of middle management where the B2B is kind of, they have the captured audience, right? So if you go
Hmm.
to a camp, that has 6 or 7 locations and they have all the parents, you don't have to reach the parents. They're directing you to them. They're giving you that
Yeah.
entree and
The
that support.
two things you mentioned. One we talked about before was like that fishing license to go in. The other one is that in B2B, you often get a land and expand kind of dynamic, right? So you go in there, like most of the camps are still one-offs, there are a couple of groups, but in construction or real estate, right? You go in and you start dealing with, say, Skanska, and you get the startups in one project in, I don't know, New York, and it's going really well. They can end up working on a project down in Tampa, and then they can work at a project out in Houston. Like they get moving laterally throughout the company by referral. And at some point, like the parent company is like, this is really cool. We're using it in 10 different places. Why don't we do kind of a license for everybody and like push it out to everybody? So sometimes, if you're really savvy, this is another tip for entrepreneurs. If you're really savvy, you can include a customer journey slide. And I usually say, if this is the case, if you're at this point, you're a little further along, you do it after your traction slide. What the customer journey slide says is, hey, we currently work with these 10 startups and it's worth
Hmm.
this much revenue. But if we were to fully expand into all the different divisions of these 10 companies, not even a single new customer,
Right. You're
that
going
$2
deeper.
million worth of
Right.
revenue becomes $40 million.
Right.
So,
That's
and then you talk about like, and here's how our expansion path works. Year one, we have a $50,000 pilot. By year two, we're doing like the full, we're doing like full $150,000 programs in 3 locations. And by year three, we got a corporate deal worth, you know, 10 million, right?
right. Because you've
And
proven
if
yourself.
you're far enough along like that, what you're then trying to say is to the VC, I know we show $2 million in revenue,
Right.
but really you should give us credit for 10
Right.
because
Which is
like they're going to do
ridiculous.
it. And you'll talk to our customers
Yeah.
and they're all like, we love it. So we have fairly good, reliable line of sight to that 10. So you get more credit for your traction than the numbers themselves show if you're a B2B company and land and expand really does work for you.
Right. Can you share some specific companies that you guys have worked with, accelerated, and they took off? And
Yeah, I mean, I can share 70 of them if you want.
well, I don't know if we have time for 70, but maybe
Yeah,
two or three of the top ones.
yeah, but
Interesting
these are going to
companies.
be kind of obscure, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm in these spaces. So I'll talk about one that blows stuff up, right? So I'm going to paint you a picture, right? Imagine you are at a quarry or an open air mine, okay, in
Okay.
the middle of Australia, middle of like the Nevada desert, and they already use kind of drones to fly over just to get a sense of what's going on. So you got all this aerial imagery, and you've got massive trucks with like tires the size of like one-story buildings floating
I've
around,
seen
pulling
this.
like
Yeah.
either granite off the quarry, wall, bringing it to the crush, the conveyor belt to go to the crusher, or ore that needs to be ground. Like this is where you are now. How you actually exploit that is at various points in time you will drill holes, put ammo into it, And then like everyone gets as far away as you can, and you blow it up, and stuff falls off. It's called drill and blast.
Yeah, I think you see those, like if you're on a highway and they've had years ago and they had to cut, you see those lines, right? Maybe it was
Oh yeah.
dynamite in those
So you
days.
see that they use it for like civil construction to widen highways, but they also use it to in
Run.
quarries to like break big pieces of the wall off.
Okay.
And historically, it's been the best judgment. Like people go out there with those surveying machines, they look at it, and they look at the geologic surveys, which they may roll out on paper or at least on tablets now, and they do their this much ammo in that hole, and then everyone like has to stop what they're doing because like when they're there, it's not safe to have one guy walking around with a surveyor kit when you've got these 50-foot trucks rolling around that could I don't know crush them like an ant.
Run over you, right?
So what this company that I worked with uh, does is they will take the geological data that you've got from your surveys, and
Right.
then they'll take the overfly data, the vision data from the drones, they'll
Okay.
marry it, and their model will tell you exactly where you need to put your explosives and how much of it, so that let's say it's a quarry and you're knocking granite off the wall, the size of the rocks that fall off are not so small that they're now just gravel, right? And you've ruined them. And they're not so big that you need to just recrush them. So you're optimizing the size of the output. Or for mines, they'll tell you how to exploit the mine to get like at that vein of, and sometimes there's multiple different metals there, but how you should, best exploit that so you're the most productive you can be.
Okay.
So they started off, I remember about $500,000 in revenue when I first brought them in. And they've just like taken off. They're like international, hundreds of clients, landing and expanding.
Are they the company you hired to bring the drones in? Is that what it
So
is?
they don't do the drones. Like, that's actually the thing we had to be very careful about in the deck, right? They don't make the drones. They don't pilot the drones. These are off the shelf. Like good recommendations if you want, but back then, like people didn't get that. Now they kind of get it. It's just we get the data feed.
And then this company processes the data and said, here's what you
Yeah,
need. Here's the
here's what
report.
you
Here's
do.
what you need to do.
Yeah, and they do it all in the background, right? So you don't need to shut anything down in order to do this process. I mean, it's really cool. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Okay. And they're still in business,
Yeah.
successful.
Company's
Right.
called Strauss. If you happen to run a mine or a quarry, you should call them. They are that good.
Okay. And what else? Is there something you can give me that people listening would more relate to than my
Sure,
business?
sure. So, we talked about the idea like, you get a rental property and then, you get to like sell to the units. There's a company called Amenify. So they started off on the West Coast. They've been working their way cross country. The idea is you're in a building, right? And your landlord or the owner of the building, like they made a gym, whatever it is, as amenities to kind of keep you happy, party room. But those are expensive. There's a bunch of other amenities you can add, like dog walking services, house cleaning services, even some kind of high-end catering services, personal fitness courses, stuff like that, which are not physical amenities that you need to pay for,
Right.
but virtual stuff. Now it's tough. As a landlord, you're not going to go out there and try to make all these deals. Then you have to deal with the fact that like they show up, are they bonded, or are they not bonded? What
Yeah.
happens? There's a complaint. They're booking. This person cancels. You don't want to deal with any of that. So what Amenify does is it's a turnkey solution for the operators and owners of rental buildings,
Okay.
usually kind of bigger rental buildings, where they can come in, they offer it to their tenants. It's seamless. The tenants get an app that they can use, or I think they can even embed the app within the building app if they have their own. The building owners have full visibility into who's going in and out. It's not like, you click here, send you to a different site to get a coupon. It's everything's booked through the app.
Okay.
And, it's really just a turnkey solution as far as the landlord's concerned. And, as far as the tenants are concerned, suddenly like a building that was just a building is now like, now working for them,
So it's like a concierge service,
except fully automated.
fully automated. Yeah, you don't need a person. So it's an
Yeah, I want to
electronic,
book
fully
cleaning
automated.
service. By the way, if I book it on Wednesdays, that's the
Right.
day that they come to the building. There's a 20% discount. Because for
Oh, so
the
it can be more efficient.
yeah, because for the cleaning service, instead of going back and forth and have all the travel time, they come and they stay all day. So you can actually give savings to your tenant and make money off of that from the vendors.
So are these kind of services not really organized in that industry?
Well,
Were
first
you
of all,
the
they didn't
first?
exist, right? They didn't
They were the
exist.
first to market to do
I
this kind
believe
of.
they were, right? So the idea that, oh, I can have a cleaning service come. Right now, everyone just has their own, they
You
found their
find
own
your
cleaners,
friend's got a cleaning lady come, and you have her come. Well,
or
can she come to me, right?
yeah, or there were some sites where you could get cleaning services come in, but they were totally separate from the building. It had nothing to do with the building.
Right.
And they had to acquire their own customers just doing like Google ads and all that kind of stuff. There are a couple of them that are very, no, I don't mean any disrespect to them. They're good services, but they weren't at all integrated with the building, right?
They
They,
weren't
I mean,
promoted by the building, supported by the
no,
building.
they weren't. I mean, they might be loosely. It's like, oh, hey,
Yeah,
people
we
in the
know this
building
group.
use it. Here's a flyer. Click here, get a coupon, and whatever, $20 off your first cleaning. But that was it. It certainly wasn't down to the level where the building would know when strangers or vendors were coming in and out of their building. There was none of that integration.
Right.
Right. So to be able to do that within this portal to deal with the concerns about building operators, the liability they're, under,
Yeah, that's what they're
that
concerned about,
was
right?
that was kind of a big deal. Like if you find a cleaning lady from your friend and she, usually it's she, comes in, something happens, hey, that's totally on you.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with the
But if
landlord.
I, as the building, recommended someone and something happens,
Yeah,
like that's a lawsuit I could be pulled in
you're
on,
getting sued. Yeah, no
which
question
is
about
why like it was necessary to have all this level of bonding and vetting
it. Right.
and audit trail.
Got it. So it was a technology company, but also all the back end dealing with bringing the people on, vetting them, making sure
Yeah,
they're insured, everything's protected.
it was a
Right.
technology company as a core for the coordination, the booking, the coordination, the data, combined with a vendor network that they created. So it really was just add water, you're good to go. Still
Now,
is.
I'm always curious. Have you ever found companies where they have like a platform like that, like they develop technology that then can be, hey, we could use this in a different industry, and then you spin off, right? Have you been involved in any deals like that where
Yeah. So sometimes we do it early. So like Strauss, the mining one, part of the reason I brought them in, I wasn't in mining, is that drill and blast is also a part of the construction process.
okay,
So my question is like, could we bring them a lot of customers for that?
you're
And it
putting up a
turned out it
large
was,
building and you run
yeah,
into some huge rock and you have problems
yeah. I'm
with it.
like building and like, yeah. So or civil construction, like I'm widening the highway.
Mhm.
So it turned out that the answer was yes, but they had so much traction in mining that it was just a better use of their time to just keep going deeper, and no pun intended, deeper and deeper into the
Right.
mining space,
Yeah.
which is fine. Like I'll take a
Yeah.
sloppy win any day. Ravi's an awesome entrepreneur. We've helped him in a lot of other ways. So that worked out very well.
Well, could
Now,
they license the technology to another company that wanted to
yeah,
use it?
they could. There are other people who are in the space, not nearly as good. So
Okay.
the way I tell most companies to work with this
Right.
is there's a vision slide towards the end of your deck. You don't have
Okay.
to have it, but sometimes that's a place where you can say, but wait, there's more, right? You remember those old
Yeah.
infomercials? But wait, there's
Right.
more. Now how much would you pay?
Right.
So you're like, hey, I've already told you the mining industry is like an $8 trillion, well, whatever, the industry's 8 trillion, whatever, but the total addressable market for us within mining is, 17 billion, whatever it might be. I know that's huge, but there's this whole construction sector also. And the TAM for that is another $10 billion,
Right.
right? So the reason that works well on the vision slide is it gives permission to different investors to say yes, whether or not they believe it. So here's how it plays out, right? Uh, you get to that vision slide, you're you're the investor. You're like, whoa, I loved you at, whatever, $3 billion market. Now I see another 10 billion. It's even more. That's great, right?
Right.
I totally buy in, even more excited. On the other hand, you could have the cynical guys that are like, yeah, it's a huge market, but you're not going to get to it for 5 years. Somebody else will own it by then. But it's okay. 3 billion is a big enough market for me. I'm still going to invest based on what I saw on your total addressable market slide.
Right.
So your vision gets you, if done right, a second way to win without any drawbacks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's often it'll be
That,
adjacent industries that show up on the vision slide.
Okay. Do you find that when you're so a lot of the companies you're dealing with is a little bit further along, right? For
Hmm.
acceleration, they're not like just concept on on a napkin.
Yeah.
Do you find that it's more, if you like the concept and you think it makes sense, how much weight does the quality of the team, the people that you're dealing with, the people that they have part of their team weigh into that? Because obviously, if you have a great idea and your execution is poor, it doesn't matter how good the idea is,
Yeah,
right?
ideas are cheap. Execution is king.
Yeah,
At the earliest stages, it's all the team, and even
yeah.
not the earliest, but early on,
You
it's
said
still
you do
largely the team.
SPVs, right?
Yeah, so my SPVs are usually into companies that are roughly at the same stage that we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I've done it all the way. Like I've done my own two startups. I've worked with startups that were at that 0 to 1 phase as an accelerator,
Hmm.
and I'm playing in like the 1 to 2, inning 1 to 2 is a sort of 0 to 1. So
Right.
I've done all of that. And when I wrote the book, I purposely wrote it so that it would work, for most of those stages. So uh, as background, the book is written like a novel, right? Because most
Hmm.
business books I find deathly
They're a
boring.
parable, a story, right?
Exactly, called the
Much
business
more
fable.
easy to read, digest,
It's
right?
more memorable. When I was giving advice to startups, I had the choice between telling them you should do this, or hey, I was invested in this other startup. They did this. Here's what happened. Like B was always a much more effective way, memorable and more effective way to get the point across than A.
Right, of course.
So I just took that, put it into a full novel about a fictional startup from soup to nuts, from like a pitch at an evening event at a law firm. Uh, a mentor, kind of an angel investor, kind of tears them a new one and says, "But there's something really cool here. Come meet with me." And they rebuild it. They pivot, to use the P word.
Okay.
And so it takes the founder all the way through from ideation and customer discovery, and validating that they actually have the right approach, all the way through to closing their first round of financing. And along
Okay.
the way, like a lot of the stories that happen, cover it. Like there's a scene where the founder is taking his son to school, and they're on the subway in Manhattan, and he kind of says, his son says like, "Man, if I owned the subway, I'd be rich." And it's really, how do you figure? It's like everyone takes the subway.
Right.
So the father, thinking he's going to be cool and teachable, says, "Well, isn't it cool that for the same $2.90, we can go 4 blocks to your school, or we could go all the way to Coney Island if we wanted to?" And his son's like, "Hell no, that sucks. You got to go pay. If you use it more, you got to pay more." So that launches into a discussion of everything from, pay for use, or you can eat models, freemium models, right? Like, hey, what about people who live far out there but can't afford and they have to go to work? Well, Dad, we can give them 2 free rides to work and back, but everything else they have to pay for. And even going into things like, Dad, if we take the subway, we don't need a car in the city, right? He goes, yeah, cars are expensive to have in the city. It's like, absolutely. It's like, tell you what, Dad, why don't you sell the car and give me the money, and then you can ride my subway for free? So share of savings pricing. But all this is in the context of like father and son on the subway just chatting, and like the dad's like, well, let's run with this. Let's see how far like the kid goes with it.
Now, how
So that's the idea, to get the concepts across in an entertaining, memorable way.
digestible way? How did you find that challenging? Like, did you have a person help you write the stories? I mean, I write
Yeah.
contracts really.
So no AI was used in the writing of this book.
Okay.
And I probably should have used it in the editing. There were a couple of cases where I could have helped. So I write a lot. I
You
found
do.
out semi late in life that I actually enjoy doing it, and I'm pretty good at it. I've gotten close to 70 or published articles in either the startup press or the industry press.
Creative writing type of articles?
No, more like, well, I mean, it's creative because, occasionally I'll drop F bombs.
And
No,
is it stories or
Oh
is
no,
it?
no, this stuff was much more like for instance, I had this one guy wanted me to write about common mistakes that startups make in their pitch
Yeah.
decks. So I write about how much I hate the approach to total addressable market called TAM SAM SOM. Like I hate it. I mean, two of the numbers are irrelevant or wrong. The third one's probably calculated wrong anyway. Like your total market is one number. Right? I can go on a rant like that. So I wrote it up, examples. Usually, like I'll come out with a kind of sarcastic, snarky title for it, like and then like the editor will tone it down. So I think I wrote like why your total addressable market slide sucks. And this editor punched it up. He goes, "Why Andrew Ackerman hates your market slide."
There you go.
So that's the kind of stuff I would write, and it was good because it would help bring startups
Right.
into the pipeline for us.
Of course.
But I found I really liked it. So
Yeah.
the writing of the book, it was the first time I'd done more than say 800 words in a row, so it was
Yeah.
challenging.
Yeah.
Uh, and the other thing that was challenging was when I write an article, it's all my voice. Like in a book with multiple characters, they kind of need to sound differently. So I
Yeah.
kind of hacked that by having very specific people in my mind for each one of the characters, people that I know. And then whenever I'd want them to say something, I would visualize that other person saying it and like, oh, that's how it's going to sound. So that was challenging.
Okay.
And the last piece was, if I wasn't careful, the entire book would be two guys sitting at a conference room table at a
Right.
WeWork looking at their
That's what I'm
pitch deck.
saying. Right.
So I had to come up with those scenarios, like what I told you, like on the train, or the founder is talking about whether or not he should hire somebody to do fundraising for him, and he's actually talking to his buddy at a bar about a matchmaking service that his buddy subscribed to, and was it working or not, and why it wasn't working. And that was the analogy for paid introductions. So coming up with those ways of translating what would otherwise be kind of dry, me to you advice, here's what
Yeah.
you should do and here's why it works, into stories, that was probably the trickiest part.
Yeah. No, that's. I don't think I could do it, and I write, informational articles all the time, blog articles. My book is not a story. It's 10 ways to get sued by anyone and everyone, but it's a guide.
Only 10?
Only, well, we just chose 10,
Top
but
10.
it's a guide, right? To it's a primer for that. It's not a story.
By the
I
way,
think I would
you
need
you
a
could do a
couple more
sequel now,
chapters.
another 10 ways to get sued. So there
Right.
you go.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe he was smarter than I
10
am. You left the
stories
sequel
about
open. I
failure in
didn't.
business. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, I appreciate it. We'll put a link in the show notes to the
Please.
book. But is it good for anybody who's looking to start a business? They're in entrepreneurship. They want to learn about it, or is it really for
Yeah.
someone who says, "Okay, I want to grow this and I want to raise money"?
No, no, no. It's good
No.
soup to nuts. I'll tell you who it's good for, right? So
Okay.
number one, you got to start up right now. Like, stop, order the book, spend a day and a half reading it. It will save you a lot of pain and suffering. You'll need it right now, and it'll materially increase your ability to succeed. Number two, you're thinking about doing a startup, right? You're in the office, you're in your cube, you're in your office if you have a real door, and there's this thing that's been bugging you. It's a painful problem, and you're trying to decide like, do I jump ship and turn this into a startup?
Right.
So, in addition to being a how-to guide, how do you evaluate? How do you do it? Since it's written like a novel, you actually get a feeling for what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. Not that glossy like Steve Jobs biopic biographies or
Right.
movies. Not like the glossy Facebook with all the drama. Like really, what does an entrepreneur feel like? Number three, if you're a student in entrepreneurship in class, like I use it in the class I teach. I have a few other people that do
You do.
it.
Okay.
I'm starting to work maybe marketing it that way a little bit more aggressively. So if anyone listening knows professors of entrepreneurship, hey, tell them they should take a
Connect.
look at the Entrepreneur's
Okay.
Odyssey. And then I joke, but I only half joke. If you're an entrepreneur and your mom still wants to know like what the hell you doing, are you going to go back to law school? Give her a copy of the book and get her off your
Give
case.
the book.
Then she'll know what you do every day.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Andrew. Thanks for coming on the show, spending time. Looks like more than an hour with me
It
on
went
the mic,
fast.
so to speak. And
Yeah.
yeah, so what's the show notes? What's the best way for people to connect with you online? Is it LinkedIn,
Yeah.
website? What's the
Listen,
best way?
number one, like if you're like, F this dude, the book sounds interesting, but I'm not interested in him, you just go to Amazon and find it.
Yeah, of
Right?
course. We'll list
That's
it below.
easy enough. I don't think there's any other books by the name Entrepreneur's Odyssey. There's certainly not one under
By
the name
Andrew.
Ackerman. Yeah.
Right.
If you're like, kind of interested, I'm only put 2 minutes. Go to my website. It's andrewbasandboyackerman.com. You'll find out a little bit
Okay.
more about me. Yes, of course, there'll be links to the book if you want to get it there. That's cool too. If you're actually, interested in learning more, the best thing to do is to find me on LinkedIn. One thing I will ask is I don't accept random links, right? My
Right. You
contact
won't
info is
accept
there.
them. They can
I
get
won't
them to you.
accept them
Right.
because I use LinkedIn for warm introductions.
Me
So
too.
if I can't go and say, hey, Mitch, like, you know me, I want to get in touch with your friend. Can you put in a good word for me? If I have just some random person I accept and I don't actually know him or her, I can't do that. So I get so
Right.
many false positives. I think I got tons of connections. I don't have any.
Right.
So I don't use it that way. and I won't accept it. And, I apologize in advance, but you should be able to, if you're doing stuff that's actually relevant, like you have a startup in prop tech or construction tech, or you're interested in, standing up a corporate innovation group, a corporate venture fund, or a venture studio. I've done a lot of work there. Like, you can get in touch with me. My contact info is there.
Got it. Okay. Well, I can't thank you enough. I didn't even ask you, what part of the country are you in?
I'm in New York. I was going to say, you
Oh,
come to New
you're
York,
in
I'll buy you a bourbon.
All right. I'm there. We can go to, you ever go to Great Jones Distillery?
Yes, I
Great
have.
Jones of Broadway, the only distillery in Manhattan. We can meet there for a drink.
You can do that too, or I'll take you to one of my favorite places called Caledonia. Great, great selection.
Awesome. All right. Andrew, thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
In addition to being a podcast host, I'm also a small business attorney, mostly providing legal services in New York and New Jersey. With over 3 decades of experience, we can handle most transactional issues. So if you're watching the show and you encounter some sort of legal issue, reach out to us and visit our website, mindhackerlaw.com. Thanks for tuning into the show and for continuing to support us.